So, you know, for the people here, you know, at the BBC Introducing Musicians Masterclass, I think you all know who Gary is, and maybe you could say a quick hello to him.
Hello, everybody. Abbey Road, my favourite place. Love recording there.
Clearly, as he made the effort to be there today.
Thanks for that.
I think we all know who our guest is today, but for just in case, you've got to play the just in case rule. And it gives me a chance to rattle off some stats too, just to humble you right at the start.
Music.
We did some clown-style music while this is going. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today has won 5 Ivor Novello Awards, is that right? 5?
Is it 5?
5, 6 #1 albums, countless #1 singles, a huge amount of prestigious awards, most of which are smash hits and upstairs.
Yeah. They're the most important ones.
I love it. I walked upstairs to Gary's private area, and I'm expecting to see Brett 12 smash hits awards laid right out there.
Beautiful.
You got to remember the people that supported you all the way through.
Best haircut.
Was it?
Yeah, best haircut we won.
I bet it wasn't as good as the one you got right now. I bet, in fact, that haircut has dated dramatically.
I'd win it again now.
You win it definitely now.
Yeah.
It's a strong look.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
for joining us. And I suppose you should say hello to everybody watching this right now as well, all the musicians who are gathered around watching this on tape.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do our best to try and find out what songwriting means to you and tell a story through, you know, your experience as an incredible songwriter. Many consider you to be Britain's greatest songwriter. And that's
That was
actually
me. That was me that started that rumour.
That's a good one to start.
Yeah.
I suppose the obvious place to begin, Gary, is your first memory of music when it really hit, not just as a baby, or maybe it was as a baby, but when you realised that it was something that went deeper than just listening to it.
Yeah, I think the realisation moment of there was something amazing happening around my ears, that was listening to the radio and hearing Soft Cell, Tainted Love. It was one of those tracks where you couldn't distinguish what was going on, but it just sounded like euphoria. That's what it sounded like to me. I absolutely just loved all the elements, the voice, the synths. It was the chorus, the chimes, the bells. I just loved it. And from then progressed to Depeche Mode and Just Can't Get Enough. I mean, it was always pop music that got me excited. It was those sounds and it was those big hooks.
Do you remember what your first song was that you wrote as a young person?
I don't remember the very individual composition, but I used to write in batches. Batch 1, I'd have 8 songs. Batch 2,
So
batch
crazy.
3.
I used to do the same thing with rhymes. I used to write albums, fully conceived albums of 10. People don't want to hear this, actually. Sorry, as you were.
Yeah, no, that's how I used to write. And because I used to put everything to tape live, I used to play it as I was singing it. You were 3 minutes in and that one's done, right? Next one, play and press pause.
Yeah.
Undo the pause, ready for another song. So it happened in big clumps of music rather than just one here, one there.
It shows a huge level of ambition even early on, that you were looking at music. You were trying to find your craft, really work on your craft. It wasn't just like, I've written a song that I'm feeling right now. It's like, here's another one, here's another one, here's a workman's ethic. What was the turning point for you, and when did you really feel comfortable that you were a writer that was expressing yourself and your own views and not necessarily those of the writers that had gone before?
I could say throughout the 90s I didn't have any views, really. I always felt that lyrics were a weak point for me, and I was often a copier of lyrics. I would use other people's emotions. I'd listen to conversations and talk to friends, and I always stole my lyrics from people around me and very seldom ever looked inside myself to write lyrics. That's something I actually have acquired and added to my skill this time round.
You have the experience now to draw upon those things, don't you?
I had the experience, but as a teenager, I spent so much time involved in music. I got to sort of 19, I didn't really have any opinions. I'd just done music for so long that and then of course, you know, you join the band and what happens is even though I was in the band for 5 years, your life goes on hold a little bit. You stop growing, really. You're just learning about what you're doing. Your life's been turned upside down. You're concentrating on other things, being a celebrity, being famous, dealing with that. The music goes further and further down the list. I remember being asked, you know, we need a first single for this for this new album, you know, have a think. And then at 6 o'clock that evening, you deliver Pray. And they all go, this is amazing. And
how did that start? How did Pray start? You've got a keyboard in front of you. We should make the most of it. I mean, what was the first chord and how did that, do you remember?
Pray was, well, in those days, I actually sang a full tone above where I sing now.
Right,
so
right,
if you come to any of our concerts now and listen closely, everything's now a tone below where
God bless
it was.
age.
But this started, if I played you the demo of this, which of course I haven't got, it was almost like a Simple Minds track, this was, when it started. And
Little muted guitar, yeah.
And then I added the hook. All I do each night is pray.
And do the words come at the same
how high
time?
it is. Hoping that I'll be above you again someday.
Do the words come that easily to you when you're writing the song, or do you get the melody first in that situation and sort of go da 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 da, and then kind of work it out?
Music's first for me every time. Still is.
And what words are going to fit into the melody? How's it going to flow? What's the best?
Yeah, I often start with a lyric, actually. I often start with a concept, an idea.
So when you sit down at the keyboard or at the piano, your hands will follow this as opposed to this.
Yeah, I think so. In the 90s, it felt so preset and programmed what I was doing because it had to be done fast. And remember that, you know, we were a boy band, so the area you're writing in is about this big. You know,
explain that, because people will be sitting here watching this now going, okay, what do you mean by you're confined on the keyboard by this amount of keys or notes in order to reach a broader selection of people?
Well, if you think about the pop music that was around in the 90s, it's very simple, very few chords.
There's all this, wasn't it?
There's a lot of that. Yeah, I was constantly trying to break out of that, but I was... You know, you've got to remember then that I was like 21, 22, and I was answerable to people as well. You know, I had a label who wanted a certain thing, and they'd say, try one of these now. And so I was working for people. I don't anymore. I don't. When I say something's good now, or when our band says something's good, it's good.
So how do you make a keyboard work in that parameter? How would you, I mean, when you're writing songs in this kind of specific area and avoiding the high notes and the low notes?
It's more when I describe this, I'm meaning more as a, you know, oh, you can't go not too many minor chords. You know, it's those sort of confinements which I don't have anymore. I've got a full length keyboard these days. As then I was working to guidelines, and we were working to accompany our image, and it was more of a package then.
Yeah.
A package that was being sold.
Yeah.
As you know, as this time round, I don't know. It just feels a little bit more bespoke.
Definitely. Arguably, the biggest hit that you had throughout the first stage of your career in Take That, before your solo career, was Back for Good. And as a piece of music that has, I mean, that's travelled through people's lives and continues to. People watching this will want to know sort of the origins of that, how that began, what the original feel for that was when you wrote that song.
I actually, the chords started from, what's that Commodore song?
Easy?
'Cause I'm easy, oh. Actually, that's a different, oh. It's slightly different, but it's basically just that, Back for Good is. It's 4 chords. And it was that period where I was starting to explore with my voice a little bit more, and I was starting to sing a lot more falsetto than I'd ever sang before. And I wanted to get a song in that the chorus didn't go, yeah, yeah, you know, that big note. I thought, let's go into falsetto for the chorus, and that's when whatever I said went high at the beginning of the chorus line, and it really felt like the demo was so convincing. It was like the best demo I'd ever done, really. And it was so convincing that I just played it to everyone, and they were just like, wow, this is amazing. And it was our first single from a record, and it doesn't sound like a first single from a record.
It sounds like a third single.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that everyone was responding to it so well, it just felt like, well, this is a great area for us, because it's not boy band all of a sudden.
Exactly. It was a very kind of established, mature, classic pop song. It's the kind of thing that I'm sure Elton John would have been proud to write. And for the first time, it wasn't about the package, was it? It showed a depth to Take That. It showed, well, it showed a depth to your writing.
Yeah.
And the success came accordingly. All of a sudden, you were established as more than just the chief writer for a boy band, traveling the world, dancing on a stage. You were actually like, this guy's a contender. He's an Ivor Novello winner. That must have felt good.
It was nice.
What was great about the return to Take That as well was that Mark got a single away that was a big hit and a real fan favourite with Shine.
Well, when I came back to the band, very quickly, within a couple of sessions, I realised I had a partner in Mark. I had that link I didn't have the first time round. I thought, oh, this is great, this is, because his style's very different from mine. And so we were good partners for each other, and it made room for Howard and Jay to get involved as well then, because we'd be busy on our bit, and they'd be tucking away at something else, and it felt like a band for the first time.
And you looked like one too, and you still do, you know?
And so it was a big surprise, and for me it was good news that I had another writer, I had a partner in what I was doing. So from that, I then had the whole thing of Robbie coming back into the band, so I'm sat there thinking, okay.
He's a writer.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Mark's a writer.
Yeah.
Robbie's a writer. Now listen, on a 3-minute single, how much of each individual can you, I mean, how do you go down that way?
You sound like Radiohead.
So I had a plan straight away. I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become like one of these hip-hop producers. I'm going to make backing tracks. But not just, you know, a kick, snare, drum and a piano. I went to town on these backing tracks. I got drummers in, guitarists. So you press play and you go, this is a hit, what is it?
It's formed,
and it hasn't even got a melody or a lyric on it.
Wow.
So what I had was then, everyone would come in the studio, so I've got 4 guys sat there, I'd go play, and then we'd have 2 mics up, recording everything everyone sang, and everyone would be coming out with melodies, lyrics.
Love that.
So all of a sudden, you've got 16 bits of a song, and you go, right, well, that bit's great, let's put that there, and it becomes like a puzzle then.
Talk us through the chord structure for The Flood. I mean, how that came about.
Flood's a really complicated record.
Just give us even one transition.
It's in a few different keys as well, and I've obviously got to remember what key we're in.
You do, you're on tour in a couple of months.
I don't even know it. We mapped the moon and the star, then you forgave them. We will meet you where the lights are. Yeah, it's a few different sections as well. It's a. I tell you what it was.
That doesn't stop. That's always moving.
I remember what it was now with this one. Is that what I did on some of the early backing tracks I made is I made too many sections because I thought if we just had a load of sections, then I can do them in any order
You'll
possible.
find a melody, move it around,
Because there's that whole bit where it goes, there's progress now.
Oh, what's that first one? Did you just play that before?
Yeah, it's a tricky...
That should not be in a pop song.
Yeah.
Wow, that shouldn't be in a pop song, should it?
That's Bohemian Rhapsody, a little bit of that. But don't tell anyone.
Okay. Let's talk about Greatest Day before we move on real quick. Just talk me through that song and just play a little bit and talk, because I love that song.
The note there.
So it's just one of the most simple things you've done, isn't it?
Descending note.
That bass note.
Just love the descending notes. Have you noticed this hand's doing nothing different?
Yeah, but it's keeping it together. It's the glue.
It's keeping the tension there.
Yes.
That is. Keeps everyone...
And that's the emotion. That's the tension, and that's the emotion.
Well, this is the drama down here. This is... I love that.
I love that one, because that's unexpected. Go back. People would expect you to go another note down.
Okay.
So dun, dun, dun. Yeah, do you know what I mean? But you went low and then back up, which almost is what, to me, emotionally as a listener, creates the euphoria of the song. Like, we're going to pick it back up. You know?
There's the release.
Yeah, it's setting it up for the big chorus. But then you got to go somewhere. There's a payoff coming, and you've got to find it.
Yeah.
And where's the chorus? Where is it?
Stay close to me. Hold on, stay close to me. Watch the world come alive tonight. I mean, they're just very simple chords. Short sections. That song was all about short sections.
Before we let you go, I want to go through, a few little tricks and tricks of the trade that you've learned, people will be watching this thinking, okay, some practical advice.
To me, the biggest sort of barrier, the biggest hurdle we've all got to get over as writers is keeping things fresh. And I always try and go into different keys. You know?
That you haven't been in
Get away from C, you know, that, because we've all sort of started to learn what we do in C.
Yeah.
So stay away from that and just go, I don't know, A flat. All of a sudden we're in a different area now.
And you're lucky you have singers who can hit notes.
Yeah,
as well.
But even if that's not the key you end up in, write it in there, and it feels different. Your hands, your hands are now shaped different because you're up high on these black notes. So just keep it fresh. I mean, one of the great things I've always had is I've always had a really good mind for technology. I can work a sequencer. I can work a keyboard. I can keep my ears fresh with sounds, new palettes of backdrops. Instead of just sat here, this would do my head in. Every day sat in front of a piano, it would do my head in. I like good sounds. I like to write to something that sounds completely different than something I worked the day before. So keep it fresh. You know, one of my best tricks is I go up and see my mum now and again for a few days. But I leave at my mum's house a MIDI keyboard and a set of Genelec speakers. And I arrive there and I set it up in front of the window, overlooking the fields, and I'm in a different situation with my gear.
That is you when you first start making music. That is when your parents buy you your first keyboard and you get some speakers and that's all you've got.
That's it.
It's ground zero, isn't it?
It is. It is. But it's a new environment. You know, even though you're on the same gear, the same sequencer, you're in a new place. You're looking at something different. The inspiration's coming from somewhere else. You know, the times I've been and checked in a hotel room in New York overlooking Central Park, Genelecs.
Boom.
Boom. I'm in a different place now. I'm in a different band. I'm in a different head. It changes things. And I really think doing that, you know, go off, go on holiday to somewhere, but take your stuff with you and work. It's great.
What is it, do you think, that, you know, songwriting ultimately, at the end of the day, what is the ultimate achievement for any young songwriter watching this? What do you think is the ultimate goal in a broad spectrum?
The message, isn't it? I mean, the message is so... And the message, by that I don't mean it's got to be... You've not got to get people thinking out of the box too much. Just touch them, you know.
Make it direct.
Give them a message. No matter how complex it is or how simple it is, as long as you touch people with it, that's the job done right there, that is. There's nothing better. Those letters I get where you know, someone's at a big crossroads of their lives and your songs made them turn right instead of left and it's been good. That's beautiful, that is. That's changing the world right there. That's the power we've got. Work at it. Be serious about it. Put time in. Because the more time, the more effort, the more of your heart and soul you get into there, the more chance you've got of touching people. I think. That's my opinion. That's the one I live by.
Gary, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant.
Thank you for talking us through so candidly.
Lovely. Lovely to speak to you.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that, you know. I can honestly say I really did. And, you know, there might be a few people that found out I was interviewing Gary Barlow who couldn't put the two things together, but that's also why we're here, you know, is because I'm a big fan of songwriters, I'm a fan of songwriting. I know a lot of you here are writers and work on your own material. I think one of the sort of prevailing things I got from Gary before we spoke as well, because we were sort of talking to each other about what we were going to talk about and all that, and he's a really big believer in not forcing it, you know, in you don't have to wait for that divine inspiration. That happens where, you know, your muse does the work for you and those words come out naturally and the chords just fit together, and those are the magic moments. You still have to work at it, but, you know, walk away from it if it's not happening. Don't try and force a song out. Don't try and kind of dig deep to just try and find that thing. It will come eventually. You know, you work on the structure, work on the things that make it what it is and ultimately dress it up and present it to people. But that initial bit of inspiration, he's a big believer in not forcing that and kind of waiting for the words and waiting for that feeling to come to you, that indescribable thing. And And I can identify with that, because I think that when we're looking for records to play on radio, it's really hard to break down a criteria, but one of the sort of kind of weird, ambiguous things that we are looking for is a sense of authenticity, a natural feeling to the song, that it feels like the artist in the song were meant to be. And that sounds really hippie-ish and corny and wishy-washy, but it does exist. And I think if you'll know when you've got the right piece of music, you'll know, you'll feel it, your skin will crawl in the best possible way, and you'll be like, this feels right, this feels like my voice, this feels like my beat, like what I want to say. And so that, I think, is really one of the ultimate goals that he strives for, and certainly what we look for in radio.